Hello, adventurer. It's good to see you. You have made it to the morning grind.
Welcome, welcome.
It's the live stream at the beginning of the Geekverse, where we talk about all types of topics in geekdom, gaming, and fantasy, with an emphasis on being constructive and creating the things that we want to exist in the world.
It's all on the grind, Sizemore. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
That's exactly right. There are a lot of adventures to be had today. Dungeons to explore and monsters to slay, and who knows what a random encounter might send our way. That's why we have to prepare, so settle in now for the morning grind with your favorite beverage in hand.
Tea? Or maybe something a little stronger. I've got a few bottles of the old Wynyard left.
Whatever you want. Pull up a chair.
Dude.
If you're feeling fancy, how about a cappuccino? Or a frappuccino? Or how about an espresso?
Just tea, thank you.
Sounds good to me, Gandalf. Whatever you want. I'm just glad you're here.
Everyone is welcome. You can just watch if you want. You don't have to worship anything you don't want to worship.
Thank you, Mike. But be forewarned.
Sometimes we get really strange characters around here.
Wait, what's that you say? Why can't you come and be a part of the stream?
My wife would disown me.
Oh no, I bet she'll be fine with it. Come on in.
Am I scared for my safety? No.
What are we supposed to do?
Everybody do the secret handshake.
Secret cultist handshake.
Oh, now do wizards who love each other.
This, my friend, is a science.
I still don't have gifts, but it's fine.
It's all on the grind, son. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
Dude, this would be a sick place to bring the band.
Indeed it would be, Dave. It really would. I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome, glad to have you here. Oh look, here's someone new.
Is this the cultist meetup?
Yes it is.
Come to hang out? Please accept me. I have nothing else.
Okay, we accept you. Everyone's welcome here.
Brought some snacks.
Well, that makes things even better.
You want some coffee? I don't drink coffee. You sure? It's cultist coffee. What makes it cultist coffee? I'm a cultist and I'm drinking it. Oh. Then I'll have some.
What exactly is going on here?
I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome. It's so great to have you. Oh, and look, here comes another stranger.
Can we help you?
Yes, fellow cultists. I could really use some food.
Oh yeah? Welcome. We have donuts.
Oh, it's me. I'm glad I'm here. I'm sure you have a few questions for me, though.
What's your name? Who do you work for? What god do you worship?
Great questions, Rob.
I'm Steve King, and I worship Nyarlathotep.
No, not really. I'm just Heath, and I won't be worshiping anything this morning. But I will be your host. Welcome to the office. We're going to have a great time. I've got my coffee ready, because now it's time for the morning grind.
If you could become a fish, that would be amazing. Then I could command you with my mental fish powers.
Hey, everybody. Oh, hey, there we go. Now I should have a microphone. Hey, good morning, everyone. Good to see you. Welcome back. I feel like it's been a little while. Oh, I'm already have to get some more water this morning. I see lots of people here. So good morning. I did send out an email blast this morning, so I took a little bit longer. It takes a long time to write the emails, and also a Kickstarter update so that people would know that we are going to be here this morning. And even if they can't join us right now, then they'll be able to come in and watch on replay. So we're going to be going over the Cultist RPG rules, because we're going to be working on some additions to it and adding some new sections in as we are going over the next few weeks. I meant to do some more live streaming last week, but we're going to do some live streaming this week. I spoke to Doug, and Doug said that he would be happy to come on and do a review of the Cultist Season 2. I asked Brianna if she would as well. She said yes. I'm trying to schedule the time between the two of them. Either going to be this Wednesday or the next Wednesday. We're going to do a watch party for the Cultists Season 2, as well as create some of these new sections in this RPG book. But we got to look at what sections we've got to finish and what is already done. So let's see. We got many people here this morning. Good morning, Better with Bacon. Good morning. We've got Doc Flamingo. Great to see you, Doc. You know, I saw that we had 29 people who joined the campaign already, which is fantastic. And I did put a link to the campaign in the description below. So that's where you can find it if you're not there already. Would love to have you, but I think that's great. 29 people who have come in so far. So I'm also going to be putting out specific posts about the different shirts and things like that, because I don't think people know that we have them. So, and I'm going to be working on that and scheduling that all week, as we go. So, Tomocrat, member for 17 months, excuse me. Doc Flamingo says, hope everyone's doing well today. I hope you're doing very well too, Doc. Great to see you here. Hi, Tomocrat. Hello. And Robert is here. Everybody's talking about Robert has an AI update. I saw I saw something about, I don't know who it was that released something like a 3D world generator that was like, text to 3D world. And I hadn't even had time to look at it, but I just saw that go by on Reddit. Some company, I don't know how good it is or how extensive it is, but you knew that was coming. So here it is in at least some capacity. Robert's been working on an AI game here and says, AI game update, interactive combat targeting functional, needs to set up polling to prevent browser timeouts that occur on firewalls. Now you can get up, make lunch, and continue playing mid-round. Well, very cool. We've taken a look at what he's been building on the show from time to time. Let's see. Sable's here. Good morning. Good morning. Mike is here. Good morning. Doc Flamingo says, like the beard. Yeah, this was an experiment. I decided not to shave when I was on vacation at the beach this summer. And so this has just been staying around. So are you linking this stream as an update to the Kickstarter? I did send out an update. Yes, I did. The email mentioned the dice drawing from last stream. Uh-oh. But yes, I did post an update. That was the other thing. I went over and I copied this as an update to the stream, so that people should be coming in from the Kickstarter. So I want to be sure of that. So it went out to email, and it also went out as a Kickstarter update. Oh, Mike gifted some memberships. Oh, thank you, Mike. Mike gifted memberships. Let's see. The Cigar Gangster, Terrace, and Jonas Devlin, Alvin Helms, and Eric Poppleton, excuse me, just received memberships. Thank you very much for that gift, Mike. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yes, Mike says, hope the new members will reach new people to join us for the grind. Hopefully they will. If you're watching, please say hello in the comments to us. Let's see. Oh, Better with Bacon says, I always forget to use these monthly member chats. Thank you for the reminder, Doc Flamingo. Member for 29 months, Better with Bacon. I don't know. I'm pretty happy this morning. I'm feeling pretty good this morning. See, we're just talking about what was happening here. Oh, I'm not going to do the drawing. I have not sent out an email specifically either about the Cthulhu ABCs. So I might do that tomorrow. I mean, I need to do it tomorrow. All right. I mean, I could do it this afternoon too. But we need to draw for a Cthulhu. We're talking about the drawing. We need to draw for the Cthulhu ABCs. But I have not even sent that out yet. I had sent all of the emails out and was focused on the RPG. So the next time we do a live stream, I didn't really want to send out a email about, hey, to new people about like, hey, on a Sunday morning. So maybe tomorrow, this afternoon, tomorrow, something like that. We do have one more thing we've got to draw for, and that is the Cthulhu's ABCs. Probably work, so some type of stream Wednesday evening. We'll do the Wednesday morning stream as well. Probably working on one of the things we need to work on for the RPG Wednesday morning. And then Wednesday night, we'll figure out some type of either a watch party or a conversation with Doug and Brianna. We really need to do the watch party before we have the conversation with Brianna and Doug, I think. So, all right, that's what's going on. We need to breathe and sip, and then I'm already going to have to refill my water. Hey, Brett, good morning. Great to see you. I had a banner up here, so this should work, especially now my face is out of the way. So the Cthulhu's RPG and Cthulhu's ABCs are on the Kickstarter now. We're reviewing the rules. I don't really need two nows. Welcome to the rules review. And then I just put down here as a reminder, click the link in the description to join the campaign so people know if they're coming by. We are live, and the link is in. I put it in the comments, but you can find it right in the description. Hey, BGD, good morning. Good morning. Man, fantastic crew this morning. All right, let's breathe and sip. I've got my fish do not drink tea coffee mug. So let's breathe and sip. 2 deep breaths, complete inhales. I always say that backwards. Deep inhales, complete exhales, and then take a sip of your favorite beverage. I have ice water this morning. So let's breathe. And sip. Mike's getting his in too. Member for 12 months. Thank you, Mike. Okay, let's go in here. Tomocrat's going in. Okay, grab your drink. Let's go. 25 months for Tomocrat. Tomocrat's been around here for a long time. All right, so I already have this game in design. So the book is already in design. It's not 100% complete yet, but that's one of the things that will allow us to. We're gonna be working in design for the sections that we add, and then that way it's already laid out, and then we can get a proof made of it basically as soon as the campaign ends, and that'll be very fun to have, and be the culmination of a long a year of work, something like that. Now, we didn't work on it for the solid year, so we've also done a lot of Rabbithania stuff. But we worked on this for quite a while. So the Cultists, a comedy RPG, a comedy role-playing game created by Heath Robinson. Got the Ravenkeep logo down here. So based on the Cultist web series, created and produced by Heath Robinson and directed by Brianna De Silva. And then we also made sure to credit Craig Campbell for allowing him to use his rules as a base. Remember, he created Low Stakes. So the game rules based on Low Stakes, an RPG by Craig Campbell and published by Nerdburger Games. A very special thank you goes out to him for graciously allowing this adaptation. So he was the first one, and we reviewed his game on the Morning Grind live stream, Low Stakes. It was a mockumentary about, it was supposed to be like What We Do in the Shadows, like inspired by that kind of show, which was perfect for the Cultists. And so we did this adaptation. But as always, adaptations like this, any kind of project like this kind of grows in scope. So here we are. Let's see. So written and designed by Heath Robinson, edited by James Bacon, cover artwork, Adam M. Botsford, graphic design and layout assistance, Brianna De Silva, character portrait art by Ashaya. And then we're going to play test it right here. And so all the play testers are going to have their names inserted. But we do have special thanks to everyone in the Morning Grind live stream. So a lot of you should be in here on the Morning Grind development of the RPG. We've got Alex 1725, Andrew, Anon Adderlen, Christian Bynum, BGD, Daniel Donnert, Doc Flamingo, Dungeon Master, James Bacon. Oh, so wait, Bacon Gaming. Okay, need to update that. This is not Bacon Gaming. Now this is James Bacon, Better with Bacon. Make sure everybody's name's correct. Are we missing? If we're missing anybody, also we need to make sure that everybody's in here. Lynn Spitz, Micah R. Maloney, Mike M. and credited the way they want to be, Nathaniel Binge, Tales and Travels, LLC, PH Arbex. You know, I have not heard back from PH. I've got the addresses of the people who had won the dice, and I've got a lot of shipping I have to do tomorrow. This is Sunday here as I'm recording. So I'll pack stuff up, and then tomorrow I'm going to ship stuff out. But as of this moment, I have not heard back from PH to see if PH did happen to be the grand prize winner. We're going to see. Robert Romano, RPG Exile, Sable Phoenix, the Titter Pig Rancher, Tomocrat, and Zabzuzane, which is Zero the Blade. So 2025. All right, now we go over here. So I figured out how to use the contents the table of contents. I noticed that things aren't at the end aren't completely lined up, but I figured out how to use the table of contents in InDesign. So I kind of like how we're structured here. We've got the getting started, game overview, what you need to play, how to play, and all of those sections. Then character creation, then the cults, and then we've got a big chunk of pre-generated characters. And that's actually some of the work that we're going to do here. Yeah, you contributed to the discussion here. Basically, that was everybody who has been part of the live discussions when we were talking. And it should be, because I kind of kept note of everybody who was in the chat and giving comments and feedback and stuff like that as the game was being developed. So I think I got everybody who like actively commented during those development streams. And if somebody new is here, if you're new and you have ideas as we're going here and we're doing things, perhaps you came into the Kickstarter and just found us, then I want to be sure to update that list, because that's the list of our Kickstarter, of our morning grind live stream people who actually were active participants in the development. So that's what that list is. So if we see new people come in and stuff like that, I should probably have I do have pen and paper by me so that I can remember, oh, we got, somebody else that needs to be credited in that capacity. Now, as far as the Kickstarter goes, we're going to have the Kickstarter credits as well, but that's the morning grind live stream credits. So pre-generated characters, we've got a couple of ones to build over the next couple of weeks, because we've got one of Acantha, but the way this game goes is you combine one of the cults with one of the narrative roles, and the narrative roles are things like the caretaker, the conflicted, the critic, the dandy, the elder goth, the lackey, maverick, the metachronism, etc. And then you combine one of those with the cult, like the cult of Nodens or Shub or the Yellow King or whatever. And it happens to be that you could represent some of our characters that are in the Cultists web show with multiple different narrative roles, depending on what episode it is, because in different episodes they kind of fill different roles, and you can kind of have character growth that way. We talked about that. So it's possible we went through and we created one version of Acantha, but it's possible to create Acantha in a different way. So we're going to do that, and then put it into this book. Originally, I was going to do anything that we did from go ahead and have the book printed off, have it ready, and then have anything we do with Kickstarter added on by standalone cards that large cards, but book size cards that are added to it. But as I was laying this out, I was like, it would just be better if it were all in the book. Might as well just do it. We're doing this once. It won't add much time, to add that to the book, and not have it, not have a prototype of it right now. But that's not necessary. It's better to go ahead and put that completely into the book, I think, and then have a complete standalone book. So you pick it up and you'll have the character alternates. So we need to do an alternate Acantha. We're going to do Garrett, who is from the Cult of Nodens. Oh, look, I see that this is Rob right here. This is pulled over how his how it's written. He's capital B there. Where are those notes I'm talking about? Here we go. Rob, character sheet, capital B. Whoop. Then an alternate Rob, Shay, Sherry, and Steve. And then obviously the headings are not carrying over from the beat sheet. So that's something that's got to be worked on. We've got the table of headaches. We've got development notes. We've got the about the creator. Oh, so there's something wrong with about the creator too. So at the end, the table of contents need to be cleaned up. But that ended up being, so, when I envisioned this, I was thinking this would be 48 pages. I was trying to make small things, and I just have not been able to do that. So this is 103 pages. So this is a pretty serious book right here. Are you including embedding links into the PDF or jumping to the table of contents? I think I can just export it like that. So that's the intention for that to be exported like that so that all those links will be installed. So I hope that just works. I really hope that just works. But yeah, that's the intention, that it would be hyperlinked within the PDF. Okay. I really like our character art here. So each, I was able to get all of the cultists in to have like this would be printed black and white. This is not a color book. So black and white imagery of the characters. So here we go. Chapter 1, getting started. Welcome, fellow cultist. Come right in. You don't have to worship anything you don't want to. You can just watch if you want, but it'll be a lot more fun if you get involved. Within this section, you will find a basic overview of the Cultist role-playing game, the Cultist RPG, and what you need to start playing. Looking for things like the italics and things like this too. So this should really be our kind of final pass in finding things like the extra capital B and stuff like that, aside from the sections that we have to add in here. So, introduction. The Cultist RPG is a rules-light, comedic tabletop game where players portray modern-day Lovecraftian cultists trying to worship Cthulhu and other gods in a world full of people who don't understand. In many role-playing games, grand adventure and life-altering quests are the norm. In this game, your characters have those aspirations, but let's face it, they're not very good at making things happen. Spells go awry, rituals often end in disaster, and sometimes the greatest challenge is going to school, or even the horror, getting a job. You are destined for greater things than school and work. It just isn't easy being a cultist. So inspired by the web series The Cultist, the game invites you into the space between the mundane and the mystical. In the Cultist RPG, you'll live the misadventures of Mike, Rob, Ben, Dave, and the rest of the gang as they try to awaken eldritch horrors. So don your robe, ready your broom or trident, and step into the world of the hilariously occult. I like that intro. Game overview. Players in the Cultist RPG portray cultists dedicated to one or more of the Lovecraftian gods, such as Cthulhu, Dagon, Yog-Sothoth, Shub-Niggurath, or Azathoth. The player's goal is to tell a story together full of absurd humor and supernatural mishaps, just like in episodes of The Cultists. To play the game, players will describe their characters' actions and speak their dialogue aloud. The core of this game is improvisation and cooperation, but you will also be rolling dice. Dice are used to determine whether or not characters succeed or fail at certain tasks, especially when they are not so good at what they are trying to do. Players will also roll dice when they are trying to gain sway over their fellow cultists by influencing them to do things that they might not otherwise want to do. The dice results will either indicate the character has had amazing success, propel the narrative forward in a new way, or introduce an interesting new complication the character must deal with as they try to achieve their usually unspeakably horrible goals. Just like in the Cultist web series, players can enact asides to a fictitious camera crew documenting their antics. The asides allow players either to earn bonuses for their own characters or inject new twists into the lives of others with the potential to unleash further comedic chaos. Or your own characters, Mike recommends. So let's see. Wait, where does that need to go? Oh, you'll live the misadventures. I bet you're talking about up here. And the rest of the game. Probably so. You'll live the misadventures of or your own unique characters. Let's say that. You'll live the adventures of Mike, Rob, Ben, Dave. You'll live the adventures of Mike, Rob, Ben, Dave, or those of your own unique characters as they try to awaken eldritch horrors. I do like that. Yes. Okay. Good catch, Mike. Says, there is no set number of players for the Cultist RPG. It can be played with just 3 or 4 players or several more to create an ensemble cast like in the show. Most games of the Cultist RPG only need a single game session to bring the story to conclusion, like an episode of the show. These sessions usually last between 1 and 2 hours, depending on the number of players in the game and the amount of detail the players want to go into when role-playing the scenes. So what do you need to play? To play the Cultist RPG, you will need this book and a few 6-sided dice. Each player will need a character sheet, either one with a pre-generated cultist or a blank one to create their own, something to write with, a way to keep track of who has sway and who has the lead in any given scene. These can be marked on a character sheet, but using physical tokens that can be passed around, such as poker chips, is often easier and more fun, and how much courage each character has. A way to keep track of who has sway and who has the lead in any sense. I don't really like that. Easier and more fun. Likewise, a way to track how much courage likewise, you will need a way to track how much courage each character has. Again, marking them on a character sheet is sufficient, but glass beads or poker chips are easier and more fun. Get rid of the parenthetical. Still, Tomocrat says, still would like to play a normal person that's unaware of what's going on with the cultists. We had talked about that. Maybe we could try to, or we had talked about, I remember a reformed cultist or playing, because we did discuss, like, should we have people who are outside the cult in this? Yeah, physical tokens preferred. Yes. I'm going to grab some more ice for this ice water. I'll be right back. Oh, we're going to have to do a Yeti hug break. I'm going to call for a Yeti hug break right here.
Oh, it's time for a Yeti hug break. Yeti hug break, Yeti hug break. Everybody go hug yo Yeti and show yo Yeti some love.
All right, Yeti, 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 Yeti. Yeah, and that's also why on the digital tabletop we have that. You could play the little sister's always complaining to the parents that she's next on the sacrifice list, or the one of the older brother. Yeah, either one of those. Well, we can go back and revisit the idea about having a non-cultist in here. I remember we had talked about the reformed cultist. We had talked about the reformed cultist. And then I know there was a discussion on whether or not there should be somebody mundane in here. We may have added notes about that in here. Hey, Andrew. Good morning. Good morning. The group will also need a copy of one of the beat sheets found in the back of this book. Beat sheets supply ideas and offer suggested story structures for the game, providing guidance on how to produce further types of stories, like trying to steal spell components from the local butcher shop. However, more experienced groups may choose to play without a beat sheet, making up everything in a completely free-form way as they go. There's Rob. Chapter 2, How to Play. The core of the Cultist RPG is a free-form role-playing. The core of the Cultist RPG is free-form role-playing. Each player assumes the role of a character and then decides what they will do and say as they deal with other player characters, non-player characters, and the situations they become involved in. The comedy comes from the absurdity of the character's ineptitude, endeavoring to interact with the modern world as believers in the genuine existence of the Lovecraftian old gods. Let me say that sentence again. Was that right? The comedy comes from the absurdity of the character's ineptitude, endeavoring, I think I need a comma here. Ineptitude, comma. Endeavoring to interact with the modern world as believers in the genuine existence of the Lovecraftian old gods. Did I write that sentence? Comes from the absurdity of the character's ineptitude as they endeavor to interact with the modern world as believers in the We say elder gods a lot. I know that people talk about there's some old gods and elder gods, but in the show they do talk about elder gods quite a bit. So that's probably what should be right here. Interact with the modern world as believers in the elder gods. That's much more clear, I think, and more direct. Oh, yeah, that's a great one. That's a great. Mike says the problem with that from a design perspective is that the characters are a role and a cult. And if you're not a cultist, then how do you make a complete character? Yeah, that in fact that may have been what came up last time we were talking about that, because character design is cult plus role. So you could have, I mean, you could have a cult that is not part of a cult, but then you're always going to have to pick that one and what you're in and have a role. So the non-cult characters aren't going to be able to have as much variety in there. That's probably the actually exactly what the situation is. And what it came down to. That's exactly right. Okay, so the comedy comes from the absurdity of the characters' ineptitude as they endeavor to interact with the modern world as believers in the elder gods. At its core, the game is a lot like an improv show. As the players improvise at the table, they will develop their own characters, but they can also help develop the characters of other players by putting them in the spotlight. So that's develop, not create. They will I would say their characters will grow. As the players improvise the table, their characters will grow and change, but they can also help develop the characters of other players by putting them in the spotlight. Throughout the game, players will reveal their characters' secrets, hidden thoughts, and knit relationships with the other characters. Sometimes these will be beneficial, but there will also be plenty of opportunities for interpersonal drama. All of the actions taken by the player characters will ultimately move the story forward as they get closer to resolving the game's central conflict. The player character's actions should be undertaken with the intention of resolving the game's underlying problem, but players can and should provide humor through their interactions. Well, when I read that the first time, develop your own character, I thought that was character creation. But what I think what we were trying to get across in that sentence by saying develop was, growth and change. Is that still not a good sentence? Like Andrew was saying here. Grow in price, size. Well, I mean, don't you have like personal growth? So does develop still work better there? As players improvise the table, they will develop. How about flesh out? Flesh out and develop. That probably gets that. Flesh out and develop their own characters as well as those of others. They will flesh out and develop their own characters as well as those of the other players by putting them in the spotlight. That's probably better. How does that sound? So as the players improvise at the table, they will flesh out and develop their own characters as well as those of other players by putting them in the spotlight. I did. The low stakes RPG, that's like the second thing in there. So yes, the low that is credited. And I remember why James Bacon says, I think I skipped over that a moment ago, but James Bacon said something about the editor on that. James Bacon did go through this and edit this. So James Bacon, so he was credited up there. It's probably why he saw that up there. Right here. But I think I just skipped. Oh yeah, edited by James Bacon. There we go. So that's credited, and then the low stakes and Craig Campbell is credited right up there. Okay. Flesh out is good. Throughout the game, players will let's start at the top there. As the players improvise at the table, they will flesh out and develop their own characters as well as those of other players by putting them in the spotlight. That sounds pretty good. Throughout the game, players will reveal their characters' secrets, hidden thoughts, and will reveal their characters' secrets, hidden thoughts. Okay, wait a minute. Secrets and hidden thoughts, as well as that's the way it should be. Throughout the game, players will reveal their characters' secrets and hidden thoughts, as well as knit relationships with the other characters. Sometimes these will be beneficial, but there will also be plenty of opportunities for interpersonal drama. All of the actions taken by the player characters will ultimately move the story forward as they get closer to resolving the game's central conflict. The player character's actions should be undertaken with the intention of resolving the game's underlying problem. But players can and should provide humor through their interactions. Because of its roots in improv, the Cultist RPG shares its core principles. The contributions of other players should be integrated in the story. The contributions of other players should be integrated into the story. When a player adds an element to the game, the other player should embrace it. Players are not permitted to negate or cancel something other than another player has declared. For instance, if one player says their character walks into the scene with a dog, another player cannot decide it's not there, actually a cat, a leopard, or a baby eldritch horror. Often players, as their characters, may ask other players questions, propose courses of actions, or add relevant elements to character backstories. When this happens, the other player should generally agree with what has been proposed and then add their own additional elements. This is often called the yes and rule of improv. Agree and extend what is being offered to develop the narrative and the humor. Players with a high degree of trust in one another may sometimes deny something offered by another player, but in those cases, the no but rule should be applied. Even though the player is negating a suggestion by another, the denying player must offer a new and viable alternative, the but, that keeps the focus on the story and the narrative moving. Oh, yeah. No, see, yeah. So I am streaming. So that don't let that confuse you. Because this is a cultist related thing. I'm actually streaming in 3 places. I'm streaming to the Cultist Facebook page and the Heath's Geekverse and also the Cultist YouTube channel. So yeah, I'm streaming in those 3 locations to let people know about it. So you may not see people in the chat. The software here, the StreamYard, gives me a unified chat, so I see everybody's chat that would be on both YouTube channels and the and Facebook. But also that's good. I thought about that this morning. Putting the chat up there on the sidebar. You want to go to Twitch as well. I used to post it, also stream to Twitch, but I mean, nobody watched on Twitch. So I ended up just dropping it. I mean, like nobody ever found anything on Twitch. It was completely pointless. But putting up the chat like this on the video, like on the actual screen, I like, because that does unify all the chats. So you could see, somebody says something on a different channel. It is throwing it all up there on the stream. I've noticed that when I comment, though, it puts it up on, it shows that I commented in multiple places, but whatever. Yeah, there you go. You can look for your own text on screen. Okay, so when responding to the other players, it's not an opportunity for you to steal the spotlight of the scene or attempt to win. To the contrary, the game will be more enjoyable for everyone if the players are looking for ways to enhance the story by putting the spotlight on other players and making them cooler and more interesting. If all the players do that for each other, the game will be more fun and evocative for everyone. The structure of story and scenes. While some advanced groups might choose to improv an entire game, the Cultist RPG features a number of plot guides called beat sheets found in the back of this book. So this should link to page 83. And I believe, so this is a hot link. So, in in Illustrator. It's not in InDesign. It's not letting me go. But that's a hot link. All of my page references, I figured out how to do the hot linking. I'll probably have to remember how to do it again. But that way, that's going to a heading that should stay consistent throughout, even if the layout changes. And I think that when that PDF is exported, then that will be linked as well. So the internal page links, that took quite a bit of time, but that is taken care of, I believe. That provide a framework for the improvisational nature of the game. The beat sheets provide suggested scenes that will advance the story and move the game forward until its conclusion. Use the following steps to set up the scenes and tell the story. So, beginning of the game, players should mutually agree on a story to play and then turn to its beat sheet. Then, I don't think I need this then. Players should mutually agree on a story to play and turn to its beat sheet. Then, they should roll on the beat sheet's crisis table to specify one or more of the details of the story being played. Next, roll a die on the opening list to establish which will be the first scene played. There may be some other key details the players will need to mutually agree upon before the scene begins. Remember, the beat sheets are there to help facilitate your story at the table. If the group ends up with a roll they do not find inspiring, go ahead and re-roll or simply select a mutually agreeable crisis and/or opening. Do what's necessary to get the game started in the best possible way. So, example, the players decide stolen item sounds like a fun game to play and turn to its beat sheet. First, the players must determine what exactly has been stolen by rolling on the crisis table. They roll a 4, meaning the stolen item is the mysterious garden gnome that protects their hideout. Everyone thinks this sounds like fun, so they take the next step and roll on the opening table. The die settles on 5, which indicates the magic item is missing and a cryptic note is found in its place. The cultists have to decipher its meaning, leading to wild speculation about the thief. The players jumped at this opportunity, brainstorming different ways they might discover that the garden gnome is missing. Ultimately, they decide the garden gnome is discovered missing when cleaning up the morning after a wild cultist party. Everyone has great ideas about possible interpretations of the cryptic message and what it might look like and what it means. With that, the game begins. So we have boxed text over here, which is not boxed text like the like an RPG module, but more like a sidebar. So we've got some information over here in a sidebar. Will there be blank beat sheets for people to make their own scenarios? I had not thought about a blank beat sheet. I hadn't thought about that. I don't know if that's something people would want or not. Now, of course, you don't have to create a new beat sheet to create a scenario. You can create it more traditionally, like with an RPG. But maybe I could add that in there. What do other people think about that? So we said this is the magic and the elder gods in the cultists. Are the elder gods actually out there? Is magic real? In the cultist web series, the elder gods arguably do not exist, and our heroes are simply delusional or just really want to believe. The cultist is also deliberately non-committal regarding the existence of magic. Shay and Acantha do occasionally pop into scenes, surprising the other cultists with their presence. Have they actually transported themselves through space and maybe even time using arcane mathematical formulae, as in Lovecraft's Dream of the Witch House? Maybe they have, or maybe something much more mundane is taking place. Who knows? Certainly not the cultists. Most of the time, the audience understands that what the characters interpret as magical effects are entirely coincidental. This can be the case in the game as well. Characters might cast spells that coincidentally work, or they might misinterpret ordinary occurrences as omens from the gods. But just because this is generally the case in the web show doesn't mean legitimate magic can't exist in your game. Maybe Acantha's magical potions have real supernatural effects. Maybe Shay wasn't just joking around when she explains to Ben how she has a history of using spells to help people shuffle off the mortal coil. By and large, in creating this RPG, we've decided on a non-committal policy regarding the existence of alien gods trapped in deathless sleep under non-Euclidean structures beneath the waves. However, that does not mean the players at the table cannot freely commit to either side of the equation. The equation? The question? Let's say question. The way players choose to portray magic in the Cultist RPG is entirely up to them. The key is making sure that they all go to the same, they're all on the same page. Everyone is on the same page. This is an improvisational game, the core element that the players should accept. A core element is that players should accept, integrate, and expand on story elements brought into the game by other players. That means players probably shouldn't have their characters casting actual magic spells or communing with elder gods if other players feel that's out of place in the narrative. As long as everyone at the table bases their play on the agreements made before the game begins, there are many great stories that can be told with a variety of different takes on the existence of magic and the elder gods. Do what is most fun for everyone at the table. Not quite used to Mirror University yet. Tom is also for the blank sheets. But that shouldn't be too hard to include. I've got that on the note over here. Yeah, I like that I like that sidebar too. That that's really important, I think. Okay, so the lead. So here we're actually getting into some of the rules here. The lead. Players should collectively select a character to be the lead in the initial scene. The player of the lead character rolls to determine the scene that will be played. See page 17, determining the scene. The lead, we're on page 15. The lead character will be central to that scene with much of the action focused on or around them. The player of the lead character should take a physical token, if one is available, to indicate that their character is the lead for that scene. This helps identify the lead character for everyone at the table. When the lead character does not have sway, he or she has priority in making sway checks in a scene. See sway on page 23. When a scene concludes, the current lead selects a new lead for the new scene. When the scene concludes, let's say for the next scene, when a scene concludes, the current lead selects a new lead for the next scene. That way we're not saying new all the time. When a scene concludes, why don't we say its lead? When a scene concludes, its lead selects a new lead for the next scene. They may not choose someone who has already been the lead this round. The chosen player character becomes the primary focus of the new scene, with the majority of the action centered on them. The chosen character might be one that was harmed or otherwise disgraced in the previous scene, allowing the potential to get some retribution or otherwise redeem themselves. The previous lead transitions to the role of scene moderator. See below. We do have this sidebar right here: curveballs and duplicate scene rolls. When rolling for a scene, the first time a die roll repeats during the game, the lead instead rolls on the curveball table, page 90, to introduce a new and unexpected complication in the game. Play continues using the scene from the curveball table. Alternatively, if the players prefer, the lead may outright choose a scene from the curveball table. If doubles are rolled again on the scene table, if a duplicate is rolled again. Well, why won't it let me? There we go. If a duplicate is rolled again on the scenes table, the scene may either choose to move up or down one number on the table to the next unplayed scene. All right, back to the lead. The lead passes around the table in this way until everyone has had a turn. Once every player has been the lead, the round is complete. Once a new round begins, the previous lead may choose any player as the new lead and play continues. Everyone does not need to get an equal number of turns as the lead during the game. As long as everyone has had a turn, allow the game to conclude when the story naturally comes to an end. Okay, establishing the scene moderator. A player whose character is not in the scene should portray any of the scene's non-player characters, NPCs, which are like extras. For the game's initial scene, players can mutually agree on a player to be the scene moderator. Each time a player is the scene moderator, he or she gains 1 point of courage. After the first scene, the scene moderator's character's involvement should be limited in the scene because he or she has just had the spotlight. Determine the scene. After the initial scene, the new lead is in charge of selecting the new scene and setting. To select the scene, the lead rolls 2 6-sided dice, sums them, and consults the beat sheet scene list. Alternatively, the lead may simply select a scene from the list or make up an entirely original scene. The beat sheet provides a structure to the progression of the scenes, but the scene recommendations are general enough to provide plenty of opportunities for the lead to customize it to their character's strengths, an opportunity that should be taken advantage of. They can specify where the scene takes place, as well as any non-player characters, important props, or set dressings that might be present when the scene begins. The lead should always attempt to devise a scene in such a way as to highlight their own abilities. This should be used especially to set themselves up to make sway checks, page 25. Don't take too long. Be spontaneous and go with your instincts and get the scene started. Example: after playing out the opening scene where the cultists are recovering the morning after a massive yard party, only to discover their garden gnome is missing with a cryptic note left in its place, the next lead rolls on the scenes table of the stolen items beat sheet and rolls a 1 and a 6 for a total of 7. Consulting the table, the next scene to be played is the cultists perform a ritual to track the item's location. This makes total sense to the players because, of course, the cultists have a special ritual to track their sacred garden gnome. The players improv a scene where they perform a ridiculous ritual in an attempt to contact the garden gnome so it can communicate its location telepathically. Whether through actual magic or coincidence, the cultists believe the garden gnome has sent them a clue as to its location, something to do with brackish water. There is... Well, what I did is I put a rules... did I put that in this right here? Because I made one of those. Okay, so what Mike is asking is... sorry to add to the list of things. Will there be a rules cheat sheet in the book? Something to help everyone recall the rules of the game during play. I have made one of those, and I put them on the back of the character sheets. Now, the question is, did I put that in the book? And I'm not sure. But it already exists. So that already exists. And if it's not already, then put rules review sheets or rules cheat sheets. That's another good one, Mike. I didn't recall seeing that had an entry on the table of contents, but it's already been made and exists, so it needs to be on there. It needs to be in the book. Maybe the last page or something like that. I don't have a way to, I don't know, like, it doesn't make sense. That was when I was trying to print out character sheets. I mean, you could do that as a separate PDF. I don't think in the book itself, when it's bound, you'd want there to be that, like, on the back of every single character sheet. But it could be printed out. You just need one of them that can be printed out. The players are ready to go on to the next scene. The next lead, I'll say when the players are ready to go on to the next scene, the next lead rolls 2d6 on the scenes table again. This time, the player rolls a 2 and a 5, another 7. Because this is a duplicate, the lead goes to the curveball table and rolls d66. 1 6 for the tens place and 1 6 for the ones place. The roll is 6 and 4 for a total of 64. The curveball to be introduced is, while imbibing illicit substances, a cultist believes an ancient tome is talking to him and tempting him to partake in forbidden activities. The players think this is a fantastic idea. They choose to play out a scene where Dave, the casual cultist of Cthulhu... Should this still be our example? Yeah, this seems to still be example text. Example paragraph. Okay. Oh, but why is that bold? This should just be italic. Okay, yeah. So I think that's still supposed to be a text. When the players are ready to go on to the next scene, the next lead rolls 2d6 on the scenes table again. This time, the player rolls a 2 and a 5, another 7. Because this is a duplicate, the lead goes to the curveball table and rolls d66. 1d6 for the tens place and 1d6 for the ones place, and rolls a 6 and 4 for the d66 roll of 64. The curveball to be introduced is, while imbibing illicit substances, a cultist believes an ancient tome is talking to him and tempting him to partake in forbidden activities. The players think this is a fantastic idea. They choose to play out a scene where Dave, the casual cultist of Cthulhu, is imbibing a bit of substance before the trek out to the swampy, brackish water, during which he will believe an old book is talking to him. It will tempt him in some way to partake in deeper and darker activities that will be contrary to the cultist's goal of recovering the garden gnome. Spells and spellcasting. I think this is supposed to be another boxed text. Spells and spellcasting. This should be boxed text heading. And this boxed text paragraph. Now, I'm going to have to remember how to put the boxed text or the gray box behind it. I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to learn InDesign. Put gray box. So gray box has got to go behind magic, spells and spellcasting. I was also very proud of this box text or this sidebar. So I'll figure out how to do that. I'm not going to sit here and try to figure out how to format that here. But okay, so that has got to be done. That's changed up. Spells and spellcasting. I was also really proud of this that we put together as far as like understanding spells and spellcasting and the way it actually works in the area of the cultists. Regardless of whether or not magic and the elder gods actually exist, see Magic and the Elder Gods in the cultist page 14. Ritualistic spellcasting plays an important part in the cultists and at the gaming table. Much of the story in the cultists revolves around and is driven by attempts to cast spells. For instance, episode 2 of the first season, The Trouble with Necromancy, opens with Mike trying to ritualistically commune with Yog-Sothoth with table salt. It ends with him and Rob using an ancient ritual to attempt to raise the dead. The story arc of the second half of the first season is driven by the cultists' attempt to summon Cthulhu because they think he will be a valuable ally in their fight against the cultists of the Yellow King. Summoning Cthulhu requires several steps, each of which is the focus of an episode. First, in episode 7, The Summoning, the cultists attempt to summon Cthulhu and fail. They determine what might be the cause of the failure and conduct 2 other rituals to attract Cthulhu's attention before they can attempt a second summoning. In episode 8, The Ritual, the cultists have a ritualistic orgy. In episode 9, The Branding, the cultists escalate their attempt to summon Cthulhu dramatically with Rob's branding. This leads to episode 10, To Raise a God, which involves another ultimately failed attempt to summon Cthulhu. Central to season 2 is Ben's attempt to cast a spell to destroy Steve. Ben makes several gallant efforts, starting with episode 6, Power Word Kill, and culminating with an attempt to cast Phantasmal Killer in episode 10, The Return. Season 2 involves other rituals as well, notably Ben's attempt to call Rob back from the sea and his ceremony dedicating himself to Cthulhu, Season 2, Episode 8, At the Water's Edge. Significantly, although the attempts to cast these spells drive the story, none of them actually work. Further, even though the spells fail, the story is still brought to a successful and satisfying conclusion. For instance, even though the cultists failed to summon Cthulhu at the end of Season 1, the failed summoning still facilitates the conclusion of the story and Ben's narrative arc. Regardless of the effectiveness of the spells in the game, spellcasting should be present, but even then it shouldn't be easy. There are a number of different elements that spellcasting might require. PH was actually very instrumental in making a suggestion of a particular type of game that he thought had spellcasting that the cultists should be based on. And this was what came from it. So pH was very instrumental right here. Players should use these elements to make spellcasting difficult and add complications and humor to the game. Generally, the greater the magical effort the cultists are trying to produce, the more difficult it should be. However, there's also plenty of comedic absurdity in the cultists trying to do something that could be easily accomplished through ordinary means, but instead are trying to use an elaborate magical ritual. When trying to develop the techniques necessary to cast a spell, consider the following. 1. Spell items or components. Spells may require components ranging from the mundane and ordinary to the seasonal or even the very limited edition. A spell might require not just any coffee, but a pumpkin spice latte, usually only available in the fall months, but the scene is currently set in the middle of summer. Although potato chips are easy to acquire year-round, the specific flavor might be out of stock. Spells that target another character may require a personal object of theirs to be the focus of the spell. This might be a piece of clothing or something more personal like their toothbrush. Obtaining this item could be a story arc to itself. Ritual casting methods. Spells in the cultists are often not inconspicuous. Casting a spell usually requires dancing, chanting, grunting, bizarre gestures, and even extravagant clothing. Casting such a spell will draw the attention of the mundane world. These spells are hardly instantaneous either. Rituals could go on for several minutes or several hours. That was it. That was Barbarians of Lemuria. So this was inspired by Barbarians of Lemuria at PH's suggestion. Because we went and read that. I couldn't remember. Thank you for reminding me about what this was. Because I had not read that magic system. So we went and read the Barbarians of Lemuria magic system and then basically use that as an inspiration for what we're writing here. Dedicated time to cast. Spells cannot be cast anytime the cultists want. Different spells may be linked to certain times, such as the time of day, the time of year, or may only be cast once a century or when the stars are in certain alignment. Putting a time constraint on the story of a spell is a wonderful way to drive action in a story. If the cultists miss the casting time, they can't just try again. Keep the pressure on. 4. Required locations. Spells can't be cast just anywhere. They might require a lot of magical power, and so the cultists might have to draw upon a certain location that is thought to be magically infused. I think I can simplify that. Spells can't be cast just anywhere. The cultists might have to draw upon a certain location I think deleted way too much there. The cultists might have to draw upon the power of a location thought to be magically infused. Okay, so spells can't be just cast anywhere. The cultists might have to draw upon the power of a location thought to be magically infused. Spells can't be just cast anywhere. The cultists might have to draw upon the power of a location thought to be magically infused. Locations could be as easy to access as the bird feeder in the park, or as difficult to get into as the basement of the local middle school, and the principal is definitely not in your cult. 5. Required sacrifices, sub-rituals, quests, and ordeals. Many spells cannot simply be cast straight away. Some will require other rituals to be performed in advance. As Mike says, you can't just summon Cthulhu out of nowhere. He has to really get to know you first. Preparatory rituals might require sacrificing your sister's favorite Care Bear or your neighbor's beloved pet. Other rituals might require personal cleansing, which could include bathing, in an inappropriate place, of course, temporary tattooing, swearing off your favorite food, or undergoing facial branding. One of the spellcasters might even have to face an intense ordeal to prove his worth, like going to a family reunion, a christening, or being unable to tell a lie for 24 hours. 6. Special knowledge. Some spells might require special knowledge and research to cast. Knowledge written in a language or code that only dedicated cultists can read or even recognize as existing. It might only be taught by an esoteric teacher that not only must be sought out, but must be convinced of your worthiness. In other words, not easily obtained. All of the above can be used in any combination. Perhaps the necessary spell can only be cast at noon on a special site, which happens to have a fast food restaurant built on top of it and requires extravagant dances with an oversized fish headdress and a lot of glitter. I'll have to look at that formatting right there. But that needs to be going to a box anyway. I also really like that text. That text right there could be used like in a writer's room for how to write the cultist spell casting if it were going on as a show. That gives you a lot of information. The one about the elder gods and this really gives you a lot of information on the feel of the cultists system. There's our Care Bear right there. Adjudicating actions. Although the majority of the game can be managed through spontaneous improvisation, with players determining the success or failure of their actions by applying their own judgment as a group, there are some circumstances where they will need to use a few simple rules to adjudicate whether or not important actions succeed or fail, or to provide a structure to inject complications and humor into the game. These rules include the use of 2 meta currencies, courage and sway, which we'll be covering first, as well as checks, headaches, and asides. So, meta currencies. The Cultist RPG uses 2 meta currencies to manage the game, courage and sway. Courage. Courage represents a character's inner determination. Player characters start the game with 1 point of courage and can earn more as the game progresses by being the scene moderator, by passing trouble checks, or enacting asides. Courage points improve the chance of rolling successes at either trouble or sway checks by spending them to roll extra dice. There is no limit to the number of courage points a character can accumulate, but players should be looking for opportunities to spend them frequently to avoid building up a larger point pool, which risks the game ending before they can all be spent. So, sway. When a character has sway, it means the character has the upper hand among their fellow cultists. The main way a character gains sway is when they succeed on a sway check. Every character has a list of sway skills, which they can use to get the edge on other members of the group, perhaps by impressing them or otherwise earning their respect. The character with sway rolls an additional die on the trouble checks, on all trouble checks. Also, when the game concludes, one way to ensure the story ends well for your character is to have sway at the end of the game. But also, the player character with sway can persuade a target character to undertake an action that complies with his or her character's desires. Describe how your character is using this. Your character uses his or her character traits to get the other character to acquiesce. It could be charm, flattery, sound reasoning, a threat, or anything else, but it will very likely work. Remember, the character has sway because they have recently done something impressive, so other characters are likely to be predisposed to be differential to them. Because having sway confers so many advantages on the character, the player of the targeted character will often choose to comply with the wishes of the sway holder and undertake the desired action. In exchange, the target takes sway from the previous player. It could be. Yeah, Mike says that text could also be used for other games' ritual needs. It totally could be. I think we have really captured the feel in a lot of that. I'm very proud of all that. Oh, look, it's the fish. Alternatively, in rare instances, the player of the target character may not want to comply with the request of the sway holder, perhaps for narrative role-playing reasons. In this case, the target may describe how he or she avoids doing what the sway holder wants, possibly through trickery, manipulation, stubbornness, or any other means. The sway holder is rebuffed, but retains sway for later use. Only one player can have sway at a time, and unlike with courage, characters cannot store sway. A character either has it or they do not. If another player gains sway, then it's lost by the player who had it. An easily identifiable token or other object should be used to indicate which current character has sway at the table, like a rubber fish, but can also be marked on the character sheet if no such object is handy. Let's go through checks right here. So checks. Most of the time when a player describes a decision their character takes, it's automatically successful. Other players react to it and the story moves forward. However, there are two circumstances where a player must roll dice to determine the success or failure of the action. This is called making a check. A player must make a check whenever 1, they attempt a task involving one of their troubles, or 2, their character attempts to gain sway with their fellow cultist by using one of their sway skills. A character may only attempt 1 check per scene, and only if it makes sense within the structure of the story being told. For example, the lackey has the sway skill, impress someone with your attention to detail and focus. But if that skill is not relevant to the scene, it cannot be used. Players are free to argue their case if they see some particular way the skill may indeed be relevant, but they should all mutually agree as to what the skills can be used, as to when the skills can be used, and when the checks can be made. Keep in mind that the game will be more fun if there's a bias for action and the characters are frequently allowed to at least try what they want to do. So to make a check, roll a single 6-sided die and see if it meets or exceeds a difficulty class DC. DCs for trouble checks are always 6. DCs for sway skill checks are always 5. If the die equals or exceeds the DC, the action was successful. Players may improve their character's chance of success in 2 ways. 1, for every point of courage spent, the player may roll an additional die. You may spend as many courage points as your character has in his or her reserve. 2, I don't talk about the reserve before. As your character has. I think that's all we need to say. Has at the time. 2, the player with sway rolls an additional die on any trouble checks they make. When multiple dice are rolled on a check, at least 1 die must equal or exceed the DC of the check for the action to be successful. Anytime a check is failed, you must introduce a headache into the game. Thank you. I think so too. That's what I was going with, like the block prints. Since this is a black and white book, I thought that bold imagery like that would be really good. Players all begin with 1 point of courage. You get courage anytime after you serve as the scene moderator, and then if you conduct as an aside. So serving as the scene moderator, you start with 1. And then when you do one of your asides. And we did have that up here. Where was our courage? Oh, right here. Courage. Characters start the game with 1 point of courage. Oh, and by passing trouble checks. So you start with 1, being the scene moderator, passing a trouble check, and enacting asides. There you go. Let's see. So where were we? Players with sway roll an additional die on any trouble check they make. When multiple dice are rolled, at least 1 die must equal or exceed the DC. So trouble checks are made when a character wants to act against part of their nature that ordinarily makes life difficult for them. See page 35. Succeeding on a trouble check during the game is one way for the story to end well for your players. Players should try to craft a storyline that ends on a positive note for any character who passed a trouble check during the game. See concluding the story. Therefore, players may want to put their characters in situations where they must confront the troubling aspect of their lives and hopefully overcome them, possibly dedicating several saved courage points to the check. Trouble checks should only be made when there are clear stakes for the character regarding whether or not they will overcome the trouble. If there would be no significant consequence for giving in to the trouble, then no trouble check should be rolled. For example, Dave, the casual cultist of Cthulhu, is heavily involved with his band in the mundane world, and so plays the narrative role of the conflicted. One of his troubles is resisting the temptations of the mundane world. This means that Dave is usually distracted from the cult by the band and all of its activities. This is a reoccurring story beat for his character. When the band's temptation arises, Dave gives in. If Dave just has to choose between grabbing pizza with the cultists or getting a beer with the band, a trouble check is likely not warranted. Dave gives in to his default state and goes with the band. However, there may be a critical point in the narrative where Dave must resist that temptation so as to prioritize joining the cult for an important ritual rather than going to band practice. Because the ritual is so important, the players believe it's narratively appropriate for Dave to try to resist the band and join the cult instead. Therefore, Dave's player can make a trouble check to see if Dave resists the temptation. Dave might even want to expend several points of courage to help ensure the check is successful. If you succeeded a trouble check, your character acts counter to that part of their nature, successfully accomplishes the action despite the fact that no one expected them to, and the character gains 2 courage points. This says 2 courage points for a check right here. Passing trouble checks this says can earn more by being the scene moderator. Let's go ahead and add that up. So 1 for being the scene moderator, 2 for passing trouble checks, and we'll check on asides, but that's good to add that up there. Sway checks. Sway checks are made when a player successfully sway checks are made when a player character wants to use one of his or her special sway skills to get a leg up on other cultists. Only one player can attempt a sway check in a scene. To be eligible to make one, the character must undertake a narrative action associated with a sway skill they possess. Rubber ducky, part of the Cult of the Yellow King, looks like. That would garner favorable attention to others from earning their respect. That would garner favorable attention from others or earn their respect, even if only temporarily. Sway skills do not necessarily have to be used against other player characters. Using them to solve a situation with a non-player character, but in a way that makes the other cultists take note, would also work. The lead has priority in making the scene's sway check. If he or she declines or is unable to make one due to the constraints of the narrative, or if the lead already has sway, the other players may mutually agree on another player to attempt the check. However, the scene moderator should only attempt a sway check if no other character is able to do so. If you can succeed at a sway check, your character gains sway among the cultists. The character who previously had sway loses it. If you fail, you must introduce a headache, see next section, into the game. So, headaches. A headache presents a fresh challenge, setback, or hurdle that adds complexity to the story, either for individual characters or the entire group of cultists. Players have the freedom to introduce complications into the game whenever they choose, but are obligated to do so when a check fails. The specifics of the headache is left to the discretion of the players who failed the check, but they may seek suggestions from fellow players if desired. The range of potential headaches is bound only by the player's creativity, though it's generally advisable for the headaches to start small and escalate in significance as the game unfolds. For ideas on potential headaches, players can refer to the headaches table at the end of the book, page 95. Now we go to asides, and I believe, yes, that asides can be 1 or 2 point of courage, so we need to add that up here. 1 or 2 points, or 1 or 2. 1 for being the scene moderator, 2 for passing trouble checks, or 1 or 2 for enacting asides, depending on its effect. All right, so how does that work? Let's go down here. Asides. An aside is a moment where your character addresses an imaginary audience, providing additional insight into the ongoing narrative. Asides are intended to inject unpredictability into the story, challenging players to adapt. During any scene involving their character, players have the option to interpret the action and transition to an aside. During any scene involving the character, let me get something to drink here. Players have the option to interrupt the action and transition to an aside. There are 3 types of asides. 1, uncover a hidden truth. 2, hint at future events. Or 3, tease or jest at another character's expense. Players should incorporate revealed truths and foreshadowed events into the narrative. This allows a player making an aside to take a bit of control over the, let's say, story, so we don't say narrative again. If the aside results in adversity for your character, describe their failure or suffering and possibly new complications to deal with as a result. Your character gains 2 points of courage. So if you complicate your own life, you get 2 points of courage. If an aside adversely affects another character, introduce an applicable headache into the game. the character making the aside gets 1 point of courage. If you complicate somebody else's life, you get 1 point of courage. Once the aside concludes, resume the ongoing scene and continue gameplay. Each player may enact with only one type of aside per game. Oh, no. Each player may enact only one of each type of aside per game. You get to do one of each. You track which one you've done. Check off the aside type on your character sheet and proceed with your revelation. In games with numerous players or with shorter story durations, all players may not enact all 3 of their asides before the game ends. This is okay. Concluding the story. As the game progresses, there will come a point where the storyline seems near its resolution, signaling the game's impending conclusion. When this moment arrives, the player possessing sway may choose to initiate the conclusion of the story. They declare this to the other players. However, before the scene concludes, other players have the opportunity to attempt to gain sway in a dramatic narrative act involving one of their sway skills. The group should agree on which player should make the last-ditch attempt. The challenger must make a sway skill check and is free to spend courage points if any are available. This adds dice to the check to the roll as normal. However, the player being challenged may also expend courage points to reduce the number of dice being rolled at the rate of 1 point per point spent. The challenger's die cannot be reduced below 1. The story will move to its conclusion regardless of the outcome of the final check, but the way it concludes will change. Players should craft a finale where things ultimately work out well for the character holding sway and those who successfully pass checks involving one of their troubles at any time during the game. The other characters face a less favorable conclusion, marked with embarrassment. The other players face a less favorable conclusion, are marked with embarrassment, failure, and some other adverse outcome. Favorable outcome or not, all players should have agency in determining the final outcome for their characters. Playing with a game master. This probably should not be boxed. So that's coming to the end. Okay, so character creation. I need to make sure that this is insert. Page break. I'll have to get that worked out. Let's see here. Let's just finish this up and let's go to character creation, and then that will be where we conclude. So this says, playing with a game master. Even though the Cultists RPG is designed to be played without a game master, some groups may be more comfortable with having a player adjudicate the game in the style of a more traditional role-playing game. The Cultists RPG can accommodate this play style. Instead of having the lead rotate into the role of the scene moderator, one person may adopt the scene moderator role. The role of scene for the entire game. Rather than having a single cultist player character, or how about instead of? Instead of playing a cultist player character, the scene modder role plays the extras and NPCs throughout all scenes and takes on a greater role in adjudicating the success or failure of another player's character's actions and what the results are. The scene moderator will also determine when making a check is necessary and will be the one who rolls for or chooses the next scene on the beat sheet. The lead player should still craft important details present for the start of the scene, as well as so as to set themselves up for sway checks. Some may want to be permanent scene moderators because they have a vision for the story or situation to engage the players. That can be an excellent way to play. However, scene moderators shouldn't spend too much time prepping for a game of the Cultists RPG. Games are intended to be focused on how the characters respond to their initial ridiculous situation, with further scenes being highly driven by the actions their characters take in response. Being that this is an improv-focused game, resist the urge to railroad the players with a predetermined story arc. Consulting the beat sheets and other tables is a lot like asking the audience in an improv show for some basic elements of the scene. use them fast and loose, and let the game go where the hijinks takes you. And then we also have this on playing a campaign, and I'm also very fond of this, because I think this does give you something about how this rule set could actually allow you to explore something deeper here. So this says playing a campaign. The Cultist RPG is often played as a one-off or one-shot game with players coming together for a single session, selecting characters, and then playing out a standalone narrative arc. However, some groups may want to play the same character over the course of several games. This will allow them to not only more deeply develop their characters, but also weave a longer story, much in the same way multiple episodes of a web series can form a longer arc. The Cultist RPG does not include rules for standard character advancement. There are no character levels or skill proficiencies to speak of. However, it does have mechanisms for character change. The same character can be played with different narrative roles. For instance, Rob plays multiple different narrative roles during the Cultists web series. This needs to be in italics. Including the Grump, the Critic, and Fanatic, but typically the focus of any given episode highlights only one at a time. Likewise, Acantha is both the Metachronism and the Caretaker. Ben begins as the novitiate, but then becomes a true believer. To remain true to this aspect of the web series, players are free to keep the same character for a future session, but switch up which narrative role they play based on the changing situation in the story. They may retain their cult affiliation, unless that's changed too, but they should select new troubles and sway skills from the list from the new narrative role. Switching narrative roles will likely be driven by the events in a previous game session. A skeptical LARPer who experiences a family crisis that causes them to lean further into the cult could become a novitiate, and then be tempted back to the mundane world, becoming the conflicted, and then finally having a personal religious experience that causes them to become a fanatic. Humor is often a great way to explore serious topics. The Cultist web series involves themes of belonging, grieving loss, and personal growth. Players who wish to explore such topics may find that embracing character change across play sessions is an important tool. I like that. I like that. Okay, now I noticed that my formatting kind of gets messed up right here. But actually, that could be pretty easy. I have to check exactly where that it might be. The chapter 3 is supposed to be above the little guy there. There's Dave on his guitar. All right. Well, I got a lot to do to continue to try to get the word out about the Kickstarter. If you are just joining us, I did put the Kickstarter link down below. I appreciate everybody's input today. I'm going to post social media posts about the shirts and things like that out to Facebook. In the Discord server, what I'll do is when I post something like that in one of the channels, maybe the general discussion or whatever, if I post something, I will try to link it today and tomorrow in the Discord server so you can see it, or you could share it or like it or whatever and help send it on its way. All right. I have enjoyed it. I'm getting all the more excited about it. Okay. So have a great day, everyone. Go forth, be creative, be constructive. I will see you all later. Thank you very much for being here.